Okay, I'm trying this video in landscape at the request of a lovely viewer in the hope that I might be able to get more into the shot. I haven't done a lot since the last video, though blimey, it's taken enough time, but something's come up in terms of the order of construction of a garment that I thought might be of interest to people who are early on in their sewing career, life, hell, I don't know. And so I thought I would talk you through it. Now this is the back of the dress. Now in the robe à la française that I'm trying to make, there's a bit at the back of the gown which kind of, if you imagine that this is the back, oh sorry, I'm so tired, I've been working so hard today, no more words. That's across the back, the centre back. And in the original dresses there's like a long piece that kind of hangs down at the back of the dress like this does. Now in the original authentic pattern design, this part is actually cut out from the same piece of fabric that forms the back of the dress on the lower half. But oh my goodness, how complicated a thing to cut. I think you have to just cut it on the dress form, and I do not have the time or the mental energy to even attempt an authentic pattern. So I'm totally making this up as I go along and cheating horrendously. So what I've done is I've decided I'm going to make the kind of the drapey bit that goes right from the centre back of the bodice right down to the floor in a separate piece of fabric, because life is too short and I don't have time for anything else. And then I thought, oh, actually this is quite a complex thing to stitch onto the centre back, and I would rather do that when I still only have 2 pieces of fabric to deal with. So I have stitched together my 2 back pieces. This is the centre back seam, and pressed it open, then worked out how much fabric I need to make this little back fake sack bit, which was literally just trial and error. I cut something which I hope is the right length. I still haven't got my shoes, so I'm not sure. And then had a go at trying to pin it, found there was too much fabric, chopped about 1/3 of it off, and then came back to this. So the way that I've approached it is this piece of fabric runs the length of the centre back right down the length of the dress, and I made it into a tube. So I stitched it, you can see the seam there on the inside. So it's basically a great big long tube, and then put the seam of that tube against, I really hope that you can see this okay, because I'm so rubbish at video. So there's the centre back of the bodice, and this is the, there we go, this is the seam on the great big tube that I've put on the back. So hopefully that makes sense. So when you fold this over, that seam is hidden. Hooray! And basically all I did was looked at pictures of the back of these dresses. It looks like you have a centre pleat. So I basically put down the centre of the tube of fabric, stitched a placeholder stitch so that it didn't slip around, and then folded in 2 pleats facing inwards, which you can see there. And then the next pleats seemed to go in the same direction, so I folded those inwards as well, made sure they were even, and just pinned as I went along. And then on the edges, the 2 pleats face outwards. Now I haven't stitched that one yet because it seems to go slightly wider than the central back bodice, so I've got to stitch up the bodice and then stitch that down. So I'm going to worry about that once those side back pieces are attached. So I pinned it all, then I pressed the pleats in, and then underneath each pleat I did a little row of stitches just to hold it all in place so that it's quite strong, because I have this fear that somebody will tread on it during dancing. I'm not going to have a train, but I just wanted to make sure that it was super strong because it's an extra piece of fabric attached. Then once that was done, I had to stitch down. They had in the design, they stitched the pleats down actually onto the bodice, it looks like at least, and then the rest of it just flows loosely. Now I really should have hand stitched this, but I really do not have the time. I've got book deadlines and I'm still organising bits of plot for the LARP and arranging props and all kinds of things, so I don't have time. So viewer, I confess, I top stitched it on the sewing machine. I feel dirty and ashamed. But it is fairly neat. It doesn't look too bad in the real world. I'm looking at it through the camera and it looks really shonky, but it's in the real world it's not too bad. And fundamentally I haven't got time to sit there and do 2 hours of hand stitching to make it invisible. So that is the sack part. And now I can make the rest of the bodice to do my first fitting. Oh my god, I hope it fits. So that will probably be one of the next things I talk about. I still haven't worked up the courage to show you the travesty of my pannier, which I must do at some point. So there you go. Oh, the reason why I stopped and recorded this now is because with everything else I make, I usually make like the bodice all together and then I add sleeves and blah, 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 and there's a particular order. With this one, it made much more sense to attach something to this piece of the bodice whilst it was still small enough to handle easily. So the trick with sewing, especially sewing something you haven't actually put together before, is to try and think 3 or 4 moves ahead, like a game of chess, I guess, so that you can see where things could get tricky. Because if I'd made the entire bodice and then had to stitch all of this, it would have been really difficult to lay it flat and pin it out and iron it, because there would have been, you know, several other pieces making a 3-dimensional curved shape attached, which is very hard to iron with. So that's it for this update. I'm not sure which bits I'll show you next, but until next time, my darlings, I will see you later.